What a bullet! Scott Arfield! He's been threatening that recently. And all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. It's Rory now. On the outside. He's
Barnes! He got it! Ashley Barnes with it! What a cross from Rory! And there was Ashley Barnes! And Burnley leading the derby.
Obviously quickly finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell. Saved by the keeper.
Burnley won it to the end. That is magnificent. They deserve that.
On it by Fulton Teller. Off for a hat-trick.
He's got it. Hat-trick for Nathan Teller. Oh, he's on fire at the minute. 3-0 Burnley. It's Nathan Teller's day. And Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby.
Here's Benson. Can he go on the outside? Comes inside. Have a shot.
Oh, the goal. Manuel Benson once more. That is top class. Burnley have done it. Fantastic. Clarets deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello everyone and welcome along to the latest instalment of the TurfCast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Redmond, after another frustrating afternoon at the Turf. But obviously we'll get into it, we'll get everyone's opinions on it and we'll talk through some of the tweets that we've put out there as well. But I do personally think that some of it is a little bit over the top on Twitter, X, Facebook, whatever you want to call it. Was it bad yesterday? I mean, the result was the performance as horrendous as people are making out? Not in my opinion, but like I said, we'll get there. The first half especially was better. Some people already sort of like chatting about how the players were booed off yesterday. Claret Owl says the booing was pathetic, to be fair. I thought our fans were better than that. I agree, mate, but I've got slated for saying that. Apparently, I have a holier-than-thou opinion, apparently, just because I think booing's ridiculous. But we'll get into it. As you can see, I'm joined by Andrew and Chris. How are you doing, lads?
Good, mate.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, good, thank you. Good, thank you. Obviously, some of you followers on Twitter will be aware I did tweet saying Sam would be on the show. Hopefully, he joins late, but he's had like a family, not a family. That sounds horrible. Something's happened where he's a bit busy, so hopefully he can come on in a bit. But we'll see. But yeah, obviously Andrew and Chris, we all know, are more than capable. But thank you for coming on the show, lads. I do appreciate it. It's good to see some of the same names in the comments. First of all, apologies. StreamYard have changed the way that the things look in the bottom, and I hate it. I just didn't have time to change it, so that'll be changed for the next one. But Scott Sullivan says, "Evening, fellas. Evening, Scott. How you doing, mate?" Claret Owl says, "Evening, Clarets." Claret Owl says, "I hope we have all settled down a little." To be fair, I think every single one of us on the TurfCast team was quite level-headed yesterday, hence why we got, some pelters because we weren't radical enough. Was up Claret says Claret and Blue 1882. Scott O'Sullivan says, but I presume that's about my timekeeping, to be fair, Scott. Claret Blue 1882 says officially late once again. If I don't start bang on 6:30, you genuinely do give me pelters as well, to be fair. I watched the match back today, finding out they did reruns on the BFC website. We were so unlucky. Chris Hyam immediately comes back at that and says we weren't unlucky. We were and we weren't. We need to be better in the final third, but I see what you mean, mate. It's going to be a frustrating season. Fans need to lower expectations. We aren't going to turn teams over like we did on the Company. I've already read that comment out from Claret Owl. Chris Hyam says the atmosphere at the Turf Bar 1 stand, I think that's meant to mean, it is awful. Claret and Blue 82 says he doesn't understand the booing. The board need to make some wise decisions in the Jan transfer window. Hopefully, mate, there's people already lined up because we do need a striker and potentially another winger. If this isn't a good show, you're getting booed off. Well, fingers crossed there's no booing at the end. Ginger Ali, good to see you, mate. He says afternoon. Evening, lads, says Moretti Marus. Harry says sack the board, but we need a Sam Rant, says Claret and Blue 1882. Fingers crossed we get one, mate. But to be fair, I think Andrew and Chris, like I said, have been quite level-headed in the WhatsApp group. Sam was a little bit pushing back on some things, so Sam probably would have had a bit of a rant, but I guess we'll see. Fingers crossed he can get on the show a little bit later on. But anyway then, lads, let's get your thoughts on the game. And please, in the comments, give me your thoughts on the game as well. We'll start with you, Andrew, seeing as you're in the top right-hand corner of the screen. What were your thoughts on yesterday's result, yesterday's performance, please, mate?
Yeah, obviously it's not a result we all wanted. Like, I think, like you said, I think a lot of the reaction's been over the top with how, we've come out of the game. But I don't think we played too bad. I think Chris said it on his fan reaction. I think we've all sort of said it, like, it's the final third. Like, you could see, compare yesterday to Hull on Wednesday night, like, you could see there was improvement there. It's just that final third. And I think we all keep saying we're waiting for that click day, we're waiting for it to click. And I think yesterday, again, we are still waiting for that click, but we need a striker. We desperately need a striker. Fleming's not the answer as a striker. He's a number 10. I'm sure we'll get into like individuals and stuff, but
yeah,
overall, I don't think it was a bad performance. It's, if we nick that 1-0 right at the end, people are coming off going, oh, well, we've ground out a win there, but we've drawn 0-0. Don't forget, this is a team that last time we were in the Championship, when we ran away with it, they beat us at the Turf. They were the only team to beat us at the Turf that season. So, it's not the result that we wanted. It's not been the best of games. Like, we haven't played the best, but I don't think it's as bad as it's being made out. And at the end of the day, we're still second. So, yeah, I'm happy about it. To be not happy, but obviously I'd rather we'd have come out with a win. But you can see the progression, you can see the improvement. So, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, I agree to an extent. I do think the reaction yesterday is over the top. The result was awful. Like, let's be fair, the result was awful, but the performance wasn't. I think a lot of people are just looking at the result, seeing an awful result, and then basing their opinion on that. And again, that's not a holier than thou opinion. That's just what I think. I do think if the Connor Roberts block had gone in and the Jadon Anthony block, because people keep saying we didn't create anything, because the stats say we didn't create anything, but we had them 2 chances, they were just blocked. And I don't know how stats work. When I get to Chris, he'll know more about it than me with his job. Forget. But I think if them 2 aren't blocked, they then come up as clear-cut chances and it don't look as bad. But I don't think it was as bad as people making out. Second half weren't great. Final third, we were awful in that final third, obviously. Yeah. But I think in terms of the performance, yesterday was considerably what... I agree with Scott when he says it was the best performance of the season. I think he's not including Luton and Cardiff in that because it's a different team. And if he does think it's a better performance than Luton, then yes, he's an idiot, like I said in the fan reaction. But bar them 2 games, I do think it was one of our better performances so far this season. Personally, go on, Andrew. You sound like you want to say something.
Yeah, like, don't forget, like, Roberts hits the crossbar in the 49th minute. Like, that goes in, they have to open up, they have to come and attack us, and I think that goes in, the floodgates open. It's just a case of we couldn't break them down, which we've said about other teams so far this season, but. Yeah, again, like, I don't want it to come across like I'm happy with 0-0. Like, I'm not happy with the 0-0 draw against the team second from bottom in the league. Like, I don't think anyone's saying that they're happy with that result, but the performances are getting better. And we said this about Company last, like, I don't want to keep comparing us to that season, but that season we hadn't clicked at this point. We're already better off than we were at that season. And we're still getting there. We're still a new team. Like you say, those first 2 games of the season, take the Luton and Cardiff game out, we've got a brand new team. And we're still getting there. We're still getting, the players are still getting used to each other. It's going to take a little bit of time. No one's saying that they're happy with a 0-0 draw against QPR, but we're happy. Like, me personally, I'm happy seeing the improvement that we're getting. And at some point, it does feel like it's going to click.
Yeah, I do agree. I feel like it's going to click when we change the side around a little bit. It's not going to click without a striker. It's not going to click without somebody a bit more clinical in that final third. Like Luca's getting a lot of stick, and I like Luca, and I still like the fact that he's brave and always wanting to get on the ball and always wanted to run at defenders. But the amount of times yesterday that we got in good positions, and Luca was guilty of it, Anthony was guilty of it, Fleming potentially a couple of times because he had that headed chance as well in the second half, which he probably should have done better with. But we got into good positions yesterday, probably more so than we have done at any point this season, bar them for 2 games. We just didn't have a good enough final third. We don't have a striker. That's a problem. There is a comment that I've seen on screen already. The comments are coming thick and fast, which is obviously brilliant, but it does mean I can't put them all on screen, and I can never re-find them again, by the way. But there was a comment earlier that said, can't remember what it said now, that, you know, we need a striker. Fleming's not a striker. That were it. And completely agree, but he's obviously playing there because everybody else is injured. We do need to play Fleming in the 10. We need to play Lyle in the 9. Try that. I know Lyle's not everyone's cup of tea, but I do think if we have Lyle in the 9 and Fleming in the 10, that gets Fleming to do all the donkey work for Lyle. Lyle doesn't have to drop deep, and then we can get the ball to Lyle in better positions. But for now, we're just going to have to put Fleming in the 10, unless we stick Jay or Horn-Tondre up there. And I don't think many people want that either, to be fair. Or I think for me, I'm at the stage now where I would try Jay in there, because yesterday we were just completely lacking a striker that can play as a striker, who knows what to do as a striker. Anyway, Chris, hope you're well, mate. What were your thoughts on yesterday's performance, mate?
I think first and foremost, the result's not acceptable, really. Like, with all due respect to QPR, like if you're trying to win the league, like we are, drawing 0-0 at home to QPR is not really a result you're looking for. I think like everyone accepts that, whether you booed them off at full time or you like me and Andrew, where you think the performance was all right. No one's happy with 0-0. No one's ever said we are. So like, no one's happy with the result. I think that's a given. But someone said in the comments before, 2/3 of the pitch, we were great. Like, this is what I struggle to kind of get behind it. Working the ball from the back through midfield, we were brilliant. We played some nice football. Like, to me, it's a myth that like Parker's football, like I see people say Parker's football's dire. The problem isn't Parker's football. We play nice in the true term of what football is. We get the ball on the floor and we pass it round. It's nice. Like, it's not like we're hoofing it from back to front, like winning headers and picking second balls. That's not what it is. The football's nice, but it's when you get round the box, we can't do anything round the box. It's like we give it Koleosho and hope for the best. Give it Anthony, hope for the best. Like, there's no patterns of play around the box. Like yesterday, we're getting the ball out wide, whipping cross. I don't have any stats. Like, I don't know how many crosses we put into the box yesterday. It must have been an astronomical number. And I'm sat in my seat thinking, like, Scott, what are you doing? You're throwing all these crosses into the box, and we've got no striker on the pitch. Like, what is the point? Like, I just don't understand. Then when he did bring a striker on, J-Rod didn't even play up top. He played like on the right in midfield, where Laurent went off, or whoever he come on for. Was it? I can't remember who come on for. But he played on the like right in midfield, and you're thinking, what are you doing? Drop Fleming back and put J-Rod up top. It just seems basic. So in that sense, he's not helping himself. But like Peterson said, we pass it back way too much. That's football. Like, if you're getting the ball on the floor and you want to play it out, you've got to be patient. Sometimes you've got to come back to go forward. Look how much it happened under Company. Like, at the start, it was wishy-washy. Like, you're passing for the sake of it. It happens. City pass for the sake of it. They don't always go forward. That's like football. If you're getting the ball on the pitch, on the floor, and you're playing, that's what happens. My biggest issue at the minute is the square pegs in round holes for me.
Yeah, completely agree.
Fleming is wasted up top. Like, he's not a number 9. So we're playing Fleming up top to accommodate Cullen, Laurent and Brownhill in midfield, which we know doesn't work. Like, we played Sheffield Wednesday and everyone lost their minds. Like I said in my fan reaction, that won't wash every week. It just won't, because they're too similar. So we're essentially accommodating Cullen, because I think everyone acknowledges Laurent plays every week and Brownhill's captain, so he's not getting dropped. So we're accommodating Cullen. So whether you like J-Rod or you like Hutonji, it doesn't matter, because you need to get Fleming out of 9 and into 10. And if that means you have to play J-Rod or you have to play Hutonji, it doesn't matter, because it's irrelevant. Like, the improvement you'll get out of playing Fleming as a 10 and to the detriment of playing J.R. Hutonji, you'll still benefit from having Fleming in his position.
Yeah.
Same with Koleosho. Get him off the right, get him onto the left. Like, he's played his best football on the left. Like, get him out there. And if that means Anthony has to go on the right, he'll have to go on the right to get the best out of Koleosho. It's like, it seems so simple. Put players in the positions to get the best out of your best players. Koleosho and Fleming are our two best attackers. So play them in their best positions. It seems so simple. I genuinely believe the solution is as simple as putting a striker in that team.
Yeah.
And dropping Fleming back, so we've got that bit of creativity. Because let's be honest, most weeks we're going to dominate the game. Like, if we were going to Sheffield, I'd say, yeah, let's leave them three in and Fleming up top. I could stomach it. But we're not. We're going to Millwall. We're going to win. We're going to dominate the game. Like, it's glaringly obvious. Yeah, I've defended Parker more than anyone because I want you. Like I said on here before, like I wanted him as the manager, but he is getting the team selection wrong at the minute, and that is the biggest issue for me. It's the striker.
Yeah,
we need to get the team. I don't care who it is. Where like we could play like Ladkey up front for me. I'm not bothered as long as we get Fleming in the 10. That's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, so do you think that's the solution? And sticking with you, Chris, because I were going to ask you that question. You kind of already answered it. I mean, Fleming can't play on Sunday against Millwall, to be fair.
Yeah.
But say if he could. So would you just be, obviously Jay's injured, but would you just be sticking Fleming in the 10, Koleosho on the opposite wing, and Honton Jay in the 9, and then just keeping a similar midfield as well? Because some people obviously want to get rid of one of the defensive mids. I'd be keeping Lauren in there because I think that's the reason why we were so far up the pitch and managed to get the ball to the final third better, because he was there, and it wasn't the other midfield that we've seen. But just changing the personnel round slightly rather than a big massive sort of like change in style and personnel.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think, like I said before, it was a case of like we work it through the thirds well. Like from getting it from defence to midfield and into that final third's not an issue. Like we're good at that. We've got players to do that, but we miss that person between midfield and attack to just knit it together. Like we've had Amdouni who could do that at times last season, and then we had Odeber doing it at the start of the season. But we've now got no one who does it because Lawrence tried his best playing in that like advanced role, and he'll make them nice runs, but that's not his game. Lawrence, that like to me anyway, like, he's that powerhouse. Like I want him in the middle of the park, like knocking people about and winning that ball back, and that's what Lawrence good at to me. And same with Brownhill's making them runs in behind, but we've got no one to link that play. So to me, it's glaringly obvious to me that we just need someone to come in and link that play, and that we've got him. He's on the pitch. He just can't do it because he's standing up front. Like it's Fleming. Like to me, I'm not a football manager, but that to me is what I'd be doing, and I do genuinely believe it's that simple as just a few subtle tweaks. Because, like I said, everything else I think we're pretty good at. We're solid at the back. We've got good players in midfield, good footballers, but we just miss that link, and then the final person to put the ball in the net. To me.
Yeah, fair enough. There's obviously players that are currently injured that could be that person. You've got Mike Trezor, who's currently missing. AJ Claret has just reminded me of Aaron Ramsey. I completely forget he's our player, because obviously he didn't really play too much at the start of the season last year in the Premier League, and when he did, he was coming off the bench and then making mistakes. And then obviously he picked up the injury, so he's been out for a while. Aaron Ramsey could be the guy that links the play up quite well, to be fair. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, you've got Mike Trezor, who's currently missing in action. Twin Cities Clarets has just been putting some stats in there. Big shout out to you for that, mate. I know you mentioned earlier, Chris, you don't know how many crosses and corners we had, but it was 47 crosses, 11% I think it was that were accurate, he said. 11 accurate, sorry, so 23%, and 16 corners. So it's clear to see that the crosses aren't working. So I think you've been backed up on that one, mate. But yeah, having Fleming in there to link the play up, to receive the ball in tight spaces, because I don't think we have anybody who wants to do that either. As to be fair, that was something Sam said in the WhatsApp group earlier. Just to give him his dues for that. I completely agreed with that when he wrote it. And people like Ramsey and Trezor could be that guy. But Andrew, I'll come back to you, mate. Obviously, what would you do different with them? What do you think needs to change to get the best out of this Burnley team and to turn these awful results? Because again, let's not beat around the bush. The result was awful, even if, in our opinion, the performance wasn't and doesn't warrant the negative reaction into wins. Because it's quite obvious what our kryptonite is this season. We just can't break teams down. If a team sets up against us with 2 banks of 8, we struggle to break them down.
Yeah, I'm 100% with Chris. Play Fleming in as your 10 and just stick someone up front. Like J-Rod, all right, he's 35. His legs aren't there. Like, everyone knows how much I love J-Rod and I'd do anything to see him in the starting 11 every single game. But it's, his legs aren't there, but he's a striker. We're not playing a striker in the striking position. And we saw on Wednesday, when you play Fleming in the 10, I think he'd been in the 10 for like 2 minutes and he scored. Like, you play him in his natural position.
Yeah.
Koleosho doesn't work on the right. Like, the lad's got talent, but he doesn't work on the right. He needs to play in his proper position. I think, as much as I love Cullen, Brownhill, and Laurent, like all 3 of them 3 don't work together. I think everyone's like realised that, apart from Parker, them 3 don't work together. And I don't get this, like, I know we like a scapegoat and we all like someone to be like, oh, you need to take him out, but I don't see the issue that people have with Josh Brownhill this season. Like, him, for me, is one of the first names on the team sheet. Like, he'll run through brick walls for you. He'll get in those positions. He's our top goal scorer this season. Like, so he's getting in those positions, getting in the attacking positions. I wouldn't take Jordan Rhodes, not a chance.
For those listening on the podcast, there's a comment on screen from David Fitzpatrick. Would you take Jordan Rhodes? Of course not, mate. I mean, obviously we're struggling up top. I'm not going to say we're not struggling up top, but let's not take the piss here, mate. We're not going to take Jordan Rhodes. What can he offer that Jay can't, for example? Sorry, Andrew, go on.
Yeah. No, like 100%. I'd rather see you up front than him. But Hatonji, like, I'd like to see us give Hatonji a go. Like, he's not. I think next weekend's probably the best chance, and we are going to see that next weekend. But
yeah,
every time he's come on, he's been put on the wing, and he's not a winger. Like, he is a centre forward, he is a striker, and all right, he might not be the best, but surely you want to give him the chance.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, obviously, because of the Fleming situation next week, we are going to see Hatonji up front, I think, or Jay. I mean, I'm not arsed which one it is, to be honest with you, but it's going to be one of them two, because obviously Fleming can't play next week. I did say Sam might be able to join later. I'm pleased to announce that he's here. Hope you're all right, mate. Hope the dog's okay as well, mate. I'm buzzing your ear, mate. I don't know if you've just got back or been able to watch a bit of it, but we're just going through sort of our thoughts on the game yesterday and the things that we change. Obviously, interestingly enough, I think you're probably the one with the opposite opinion from what I saw in the WhatsApp group as to sort of like the results so far. The performances. So give me your thoughts on the game yesterday, please, mate.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'd like to caveat the fact that we are still up there this season, and it's not all doom and gloom. It's just the teams that we've played. Regardless of whether or not we're in a company era where we're flying and beating teams, left, right, and centre. Regardless of whether or not it's a new team, and we've invested a lot of money into these players. And Scott Parker's come into a team that is of a lot better quality than a lot of teams he could have gone to in the Championship. So for me, you can't draw 0-0 with QPR at home. You can't draw with Preston at home. You can't go to Oxford and draw. But going off of yesterday's game, there were chances in the game where if we did score, who knows, we could have ran away with it. I think the only thing for me is performances at the minute looks a lot like, and I hate to say it, but a lot like what Bournemouth fans and Fulham fans told us, which is he's all bark and no bite. We can keep the ball for 73% possession, but we haven't unfortunately managed to make that turn that into a win. We struggled at the start with Company though as well. We did have a couple of games where it was really frustrating, so I do think that's another thing to caveat as well. But the team will only get better. The team will only, I don't want to use the word click because I feel like we used it a lot 2 years ago, but you know, the team will click eventually. He's still easily the best man for the job. He's proven to get teams out of this division, and these are just teething problems as well. So I feel like I've kind of said both sides of it, but I feel like I sit very much in the middle of like, it's nothing to worry about right now, but like there is still an element of you should be beating QPR at home. So
to be fair, that's a lot more balanced than I expected from some of the WhatsApp messages earlier.
Very different from what I said in the chat. I've had a bit of time to calm down now.
There's obviously been some calls for Parker to be sacked, and it's good to see that everybody's still keeping their head on Team TurfCast. Although, to be fair, I think that the main accounts that did say there are sacked Parker have come out today and said this was a bit reactionary from me, which is fair enough. We all get emotional. Obviously, Sam, I do want to quit that. I've already asked Andrew and Chris, but what would you do differently then to sort of like change it? Because yesterday, like, yeah, the result was awful, but I do feel like the performance was better than what it has been for the majority of this season. We got the ball to the final third better. It's just that when we were at the final third, we just shit ourselves and kept making the wrong mistakes. Like, we did have a couple of chances that fell to the wrong people, like Connor Roberts, you know, getting a nosebleed and stuff, you know, with a block shot. Anthony probably should do better as well, another block shot.
Yeah.
If they go to like an out-and-out number 9, I think we win the game 2-0, and then it opens up and you know, the floodgates may open, as Andrew said earlier. But what would you do differently? Because obviously Chris alluded to sort of like some square pegs in round holes and things like that, and you know, just playing Fleming in the 10, even if it means playing J.O. Hontondry in the 9, and then putting Luca on the left rather than on the right. Is there anything you do differently, mate?
I think now's the time to. I think now's the time to really, you know, you've actually, in saying it, like, I've started to say it, and then I'm going to go back on myself a little bit. Like, we should have been changing the team around in these games. These are the games where you can experiment with the team. You're a new manager with new players. You can put Sarmiento on the wing and just see if it works. You can play J-Rod in the 9 and see if he works. You can drop Fleming back to the 10 and see if he can be a striker. Those are the games to do it. For me, we've got a difficult run of games coming up now. We've got West Brom. We've got a few other teams that are up there this season. And those, for me, are the games where, okay, the QPR game right now, the Oxford game, the Preston game, they're not highlighted now. But if you don't get good performances and don't get results against the better teams in the league, then you inevitably will come back to these results and say, well, okay, we haven't managed to beat West Brom, but at the same time, we drew with QPR, we've drawn with Preston, we've dropped points against teams that we should easily be beating. I mean, look at Preston, man. I mean, Preston were 3-0 up and drew 3-3 with Plymouth. Like, they are an awful team. So for me, it'd probably be starting with playing a number 9. Hatunji, for me, has not done anything to warrant starting. J-Rod still, for me, would be the player to bring in. It's a shame we've lost Lyle when we have, even though there's still question marks around him. I think defence looks solid still, even in saying that. I think whoever we play across that back four, they seem to be slotting in well. I think Perez has been given some unnecessary stick recently. I think every time he plays, all right, there's a wobbly part to his game, but he still looks pretty solid. Midfield picks itself. Josh Laurent, Josh Cullen, people shouting for Cullen to be out of the team. I've seen that over Twitter over the last few weeks. Honestly, what on earth? I agree with you guys. Like, you know, swapping wings for Koleosha, I think maybe. I think the only thing with him is, and I feel like we've said it since we signed him, is like the boy's not known for end product. The goal against Leeds can 100% allude you to the fact that the boy knows where the back of the net is and the boy knows how to put a cross in there. That he is still a young lad learning his trade. He's not the £40 million player that Burnley was sat on, and he is inevitably going to make mistakes in games. Some games he is absolutely electric, and there's other games where it's very easy to read what he's going to do. And I think the game at the weekend proved that. I think the last game against Hull, all my life, like, he was so good for like 15 minutes. And then every time he went on the outside of Cody Drama, he beat him. Every single time he went on the inside, Cody Drama won the ball. It's just, you know, there's minor teething things that you can put in there. But I think only time will tell, really. And I think it's a good test up against these difficult sides in the division. But I would have rather seen him swapping things around for these last few games, really.
Yeah, I agree, because we're now in a position where we can't play Fleming against Millwall. So we now have an issue where we're going to have to stick somebody in the 10. But just to mention the fixtures coming up that Sam's alluded to there, obviously Millwall away next. Then West Brom away. West Brom's going to be a very tough game. Swansea at home. Bristol City away. Coventry at home. Then we've got Stoke. Then it gets into some sort of like difficult fixtures, I think, after that. Obviously, West Brom is difficult. I think Bristol City and Millwall away will be tough as well. But then we've got Middlesbrough at home, Derby at home, Norwich away, then Watford, then Sheffield United on Boxing Day, Middlesbrough again. So there are winnable games in there, but there are games where we're going to struggle, and we'll just have to see how we get on. I'm worried about this weekend now because of the Fleming thing, because of the incident with Fleming. I do quickly want to chat to you boys about Scott Parker's comments, because he did say after the full-time whistle, I'll just quickly try and bring it onto your screen now on the awful Burnley Express website. That is not a dig, by the way, at the journalists and the people who work at the Burnley Express. I understand that it's forced on them, this awful template of a website. But Scott Parker, just to read the article out for you, it says Scott Parker felt Burnley's dominant display during their frustrating goalless draw against QPR was arguably their best of the season. And then the article continues all the way down here. Speaking after the game, Parker said, "We're frustrated for sure. That's real frustration. They've come here with a game plan to survive. It was a boxing match, really, that was going to end in the 10th or 11th round. You jab your way and beat them up, go to the body, go to the head, and hope you knock them out later on. But it didn't materialise for us today. That just wasn't the case." Firstly, I'm gutted for the players. I asked the players to put in a dominant performance coming out of the 3-game week. We've been on the road and there's been a lot of travel. That's not an excuse, but obviously as a coach, you're always fearful of what that could look like. But we were everything what I wanted us to look like. I understand the frustration is not getting the job done or not converting the chances that we've had. But sometimes that's the way it is, and sometimes that's football. The performance was arguably our best performance of the season. So, Andrew, I'll come to you first. I agree to an extent, barring, like I've said, the Luton and Cardiff games, because I do feel like when he mentions the season, I don't think he includes them because it was a different team. So I think after that, like I said before, I've said it once already on this show and I've said it on my fan reaction. If he does think that it was a better performance in that Luton game, then yeah, he's wrong. But I don't think he thinks that. Other than them two, I think it was that first half especially. Second half, yeah, it was just like a training match, as somebody said in the comments earlier, and it wasn't great and we didn't do enough. But first half, yeah, I did think it was one of the better performances. But he's got a lot of criticism in some of the TurfCast comments on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. What do you think about them comments, mate, that Scott Parker's made?
Yeah, we put the ball in the back of the net at any point in that game. We're having a completely different conversation about how we've dominated that game and we should have scored another 2 or 3. Like, I'd probably agree with him on the performance. Like, obviously, take out the Luton and the Cardiff game because they're like anomalies looking back now at the minute. Yeah, you can see the improvement. Like I say, that game yesterday compared to the game against Hull was completely like different. Like, we clearly improving, and I think, like, what we're at 75% possession, 20 odd shots or something. Like, we've created some chances. It's just that final third.
Yeah,
I honestly think, like, I'd honestly agree with him that, yeah, that probably was our best performance of this season, minus them 2 games. And like I say, we score one of them chances. I honestly believe we go and get another 3 or 4. Like, I genuinely think as soon as if we'd have scored one, the floodgates would have opened because they'd have had to open up. It was just getting that one. And I think we're a mix of unlucky and not clinical enough with that. But yeah, I don't understand any flack he's getting for that at all, because he's spot on for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Also, the issue is scoring goals. Just to mention a stat, we scored 9 goals in the opening 2 games of the season. Obviously, Clarets put it there, so I just thought I'd mention it. We've scored 17 overall this season, so 9 goals in the first 2 and less than that in the, how many games have we even played? 10 games after that? Yeah, 10 games after that. So obviously the signs are, we all know we can't score goals. We all know that's the issue. But yeah, sorry, just to digress a little bit. Chris, your thoughts on Parker's comments. Do you agree with Andrew? Do you think he is right? Do you think the reaction's a little bit over the top? People having a whinge at that?
Yeah, a bit over the top. I don't know about it. I'd probably say he's right in terms of it was the best performance in terms of like how much we've dominated the game. Like, we dominated more than we did at Hull, and like even Preston should have beat us with that goal, and like we didn't quite dominate the same in those other games like Oxford and that. Obviously, I think the best one most people probably say was at Leeds, but in a different kind of way. I think he means in sense of like how we dominated a game, and then you probably have to agree with him, because other than the first 2, I can't really think of anywhere we've dominated to that level. So I think people sometimes read too much into it. And like Andrew said, if we'd have won the game 1-0, people would have probably looked and said, yeah, perfect performance. We've gone 1-0 up early, managed the game well, should have won by more. And everyone goes home happy. But because we've not got that goal, we're having a different conversation. But at face value, on the term, like in terms of performance, I don't think he's far off in terms of how we dominated the game. But ultimately, it doesn't mean anything unless you win. Like, we're in the position now where we need to get out of this league. Like, performances don't get us points. We need 3 points, and we need to finish in that top 2, because we can't. Like, it sounds, what's the right word? Like, not like a bit of football snobbery, but like we can't have another season in this league. Like, we'll just lose any good players we have left. We'll lose them, and we'll just end up stuck. It's like we can't have another season in this league. We need to get out. Like, performances are great, but we need points.
Yeah, no, fair enough. We definitely need to start turning these sort of like ridiculous 0-0s into wins. Sam, your thoughts on Parker's comments as well? And by the way, Claret Al wants to know where your lights in the background have gone. It is a bit dark in your room at the minute. Have you moved them?
I'm in the process of sorting my room out a little bit, so I've had to take them down. Hence the random splodge of paint over there in the corner.
We can't see it just yet. Maybe on one of the morning streams in the next.
Yeah. No, sorry about that. I'll try and bring him back. Don't you worry. No, I think I agree with some of the comments. Parker is just doing what every manager does, and he's just saying the things that they think the fans want to hear. My only thing is to kind of go right in between what Andrew said and what Chris has said. At the same time, we've played QPR, who are bottom of the league. And that's your best performance, is drawing 0-0 at home. Like, I'm not being funny, but that's like, to me, that's just waffle. Like, you can't play bottom of the league when you are one of the promotion favourites and say that one of your best performances is a game where you cannot score at home. With the investment that we've had, playing arguably one of the worst sides in the division, you know, for me, it's a weird comment, really. Like, I have absolutely no issue with Scott Parker as a manager and anything to do with the tactics. We gave company time, but come out and say you're frustrated. Don't come out and say that was a good performance. You've had 22 shots, and how many were on target? Like, what, 4? Like,
I'm not sure exactly. I think it was 2 or 3. Let's just have a quick look.
Like,
4. You're spot on, mate.
Yeah.
4.
So, in my opinion, like, we have to take into consideration some of the things that came before as well. Yeah, okay, we've lost loads and loads of players, but we have reinvested back into the team to a not a similar level, but we are still easily one of the best sides in the Championship this season. But we aren't currently playing like that. And I think that, but then you actually look at the table and we are there, like we are in and amongst those teams that would be considered the best teams in the Championship. I don't think there is a runaway team this year, but you can't say that one of your best performances is drawing 0-0 with bottom at league. I'm sorry, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, if you'd have said one of your best performances was going to Leeds and playing that low block and playing a similar game that QPR did, but coming away with the win. Like, I'd say that's one of our best performances, because we didn't play well really in the game, but it was an amazing away performance and managed to pull off a win out of nowhere. And it was even better because I was on a trip away with lads and they were all watching it as Leeds fans, and it was brilliant. Yeah, for me, it's a strange comment, but it's one that he's obviously going to make, isn't it? So,
yeah, I mean, just to caveat the point about the Leeds game, I think you said it yourself, to be fair, but they're two completely different types of performances, weren't they? The Leeds game, it was a case of let them have the ball and defend and basically do to them what QPR and Preston have done to us. But obviously, as Chris said, in terms of sort of like dominating possession and dominating the play, it probably was.
But it goes back to what Chris said as well about the result. Like, okay, that performance might not have been one where we absolutely took over, but we put in the exact performance for the occasion that we were in and got the result. This was a performance without the result, so it can't be the best performance you've had all season, like in my opinion. But
yeah, no, fair enough. What else were I going to say? Yeah, that's one thing I did do was ask on Twitter people's opinions. So I just quickly want to mention some of the comments that we saw on Twitter, because I did sort of like encourage people to answer on there, and some of the comments will be read out on the podcast as well. So I'll just quickly zoom in a bit so you can all see it. But yeah, I put this tweet up, 17k views, well, 18.5k now. Just sort of like saying, what would you change if you hate this style? I know I've already asked the lads on this, so I just quickly want to sort of like see what the thing is on Twitter. Kane, who runs Burnley way, says, for me, it's more than just a striker. We aren't creating anything currently, which these days is a team-wide issue. Starting from the back, there's no purpose to what Trafford is doing. As much as I've rated him, he isn't currently doing anything with a plan. He's just launching it or playing it too safe. We've lost that central penetrating pass to the number 10 that VK loved him / Muric playing. The wingers are not effective. Corley Osho on the right is away, so we've kind of already touched on that, haven't we? And Anthony isn't that guy on the left, so it probably is worth switching him, as we've said. I'd argue even sacrifice Brownell to play wide right to hold possession, if nothing, with Corley Osho being able to play in his best position. Playing behind the number 10 up top isn't working, and if then bringing on J-Rod behind Fleming is crazy. Even if Jay doesn't have the legs, he could be able to hold. Yeah, we kind of agree with all that sort of stuff that Kane did mention there, to be fair, and we've kind of mentioned that. Mike says, from what I could see, although this is not another essay, it kind of is, from what I could see, the attacking threat had greatly improved. However, we went from Timmy Mallet to angry Timmy Mallet. What, I don't even know what that even means. Yes, it's more aggressive, but we still have a harmless attack with a blow-up hammer. Yeah, it's a good analogy, to be fair. Fleming is not a striker. It feels like the Golden Gen England, where the manager would shoehorn Scholes next to Lampard and Gerrard just because they're the best players. Again, that's kind of what we've said, obviously. Chris as well, he mentions Corley Osho being on the left. He says Corley Osho has to be on the left. It means that until Trezor comes into play or Benson has a run of fitness, either playing Anthony or Sarmiento out of permission. For me personally, I'd play Enoch out there. And then on top of that, I'd drop Cullen for Hunt-Andre and drop Fleming back to the 10. Obviously, Sam's already mentioned that, and he would not be happy to see that. Jordan says, the key to improving the attack isn't rocket science. Get more bodies and more crosses into the box. A change in shape, get Fleming playing with an actual striker. Crosses were ineffective yesterday, but if we have more bodies in the box, I guess, who knows? I just don't think we have players that are good enough in the air at the minute. Having said that, Fleming did score a decent header against Hull. Sui, who's actually in the chat as well, to be fair, he says, need to stop the pointless, completely opposite to that. That's what I love about football fans. Jordan says, put more crosses in the box and get more bodies in. So he says, we need to completely stop the pointless crosses and we don't have the players for that, which is kind of what I've just said, to be fair. Centre-backs need to be more adventurous like Bayer used to be, which makes space. Corley Osho needs to play on the left. I think people as well, Chris did mention it sort of like in like a little private chat that we have on StreamYard. Humphreys had a header yesterday, which he should have done better with. So again, yeah, even the players, when we are winning the headers, aren't doing that very well. Sandra says, I think this is a really good summary. Probably not watching Sandra, but thank you. I cannot understand why we have a striker on the bench, J-Rod, and we are playing an attacking midfielder up front with Fleming. Play two up front, home and away, and stop being so negative, says Daz. So, Chris, I'll come to you next on this one. There's been some calls for changing the system and going two up top. A couple of people that mentioned in the chat earlier and on Twitter, dropping one of the defensive midfielders and maybe putting a second striker up there. Is that something you do?
No, definitely not. In a word, no. Part at the end of the day, like every manager has their own system. Parker comes in with his, and his is to play 4-2-3-1 or whatever he describes it as. That's his system, and that's what he's going to play. Like, when you start tinkering and like messing about with it, you're just asking for a disaster. And to be honest, we don't even have one striker to play at the minute. So I don't know where we're playing two from. Like, can you imagine Hutonji and Jay up front together? That's frightening. So no, you can't change the system. That's his way. And I also think it's difficult. It's very, very difficult. And you'd have to have two exceptionally good centre midfielders to get the ball down and play through thirds with just two in midfield, because every other team's playing three in there. So you'd have to be exceptionally good to do that. That's one thing I would say as well. Like, 4-4-2, not for me. You just stick with what you know, like, and it just needs some tweaks in the final third. I don't think it's the system that's the issue. It's just what we do when we get up there. We just lack that invention. But I don't think the system's the issue, personally.
Fair enough. Sam, would you agree? Do you think it's not the system and it's just kind of like the final third issues that we've already touched on, or would you change the system?
I think it just goes back to what I say about Company. Like, we gave Company time, and you have to do the same with Parker. Like, we gave Vincent Kompany the time to not get us promoted and build a team and exceeded expectations. And I feel like when we've come down, and we're all guilty of it, because we did come down with an absolutely belting team, and then that got obliterated. And I still think we've got a belting team. I still think we've got cracking players. But I think all the change within the background staff and within the first team, and all these new players coming in, and it's another set of young players, and there's a lot that still needs to bed in. Still a lot of there's still a lot of learning the system going on as well. There's also players learning the system in a way that they shouldn't be, because Fleming's not a 9, and it's an enforced change, because, with the greatest respect to Jay, however old he is, 33, 34, you don't want to have an aging striker up front at this point when you challenge him for, or when you want him to challenge for the title and challenge for promotion. And I think the same thing needs to happen with Parker. His style of play is different to Kompany's, and I think we need to realise that. I certainly, after some of the draws that we've had in recent games, I think it's been highlighted more. These issues that he does have tactically, which is, if he doesn't have a Solanke or a Mitrovic, and he doesn't have that 30-goal-a-season striker, it is a lot harder for him as a manager to get goals. We unfortunately don't have that. I mean, we came down singing Lau Foster's praises, and with the greatest respect, like, for me, I said it back when we signed him 2 seasons ago, and he went through a spell in the Premier League where we thought he could be a really good striker. He still, even though he's been injured, in the games that he has played, hasn't done enough to solidify that starting spot. For me, we need to try and get through to January and go out there and really make a statement, trying to sign a number 9, trying to sign a striker that for the latter half of the season is just going to be a consistent performer and try and bag goal. I know it's easier said than done, but for me, it's having that steady flow of goals. Jadon Anthony came off of a season last season for Leeds where he didn't really manage to get into a team, because, let's be fair, he's not going to get in over Nonto and Somerville at that point. So he's still rusty and getting back up to speed with playing first team football every week. Koleosho came off an ACL injury. Okay, granted, he looks like he's still absolutely electric, but he's still getting back up to speed. So many players are, and in a system with a manager that's gone from one end of the spectrum with Kompany, who is so direct, and there's so many different tactical ways to move around the pitch, and your right back's a centre mid, and then your striker's a right back, and everything flicks around so smoothly. It's very different to go to a manager that's very much like, okay, you 4 are defenders, you 4 are midfielders, you guys attack, you wingers kind of just, everybody's still getting used to each other. So I would just say, if it was up to me, we'd go out and we'd have a new number 9. Because I don't think any of the number 9s that we've got right now are number 9s that fill me with bags of confidence that they're even going to get 15 goals this season, let alone the 25 that we expect. But if you're asking me about the tactics and stuff, I'd say to Scott Parker, just keep doing what you're doing, because the performance was better against QPR and performances have been steadily getting better. So the more that they get used to this system, these players and the players that are still coming back, from injury and things like that, hopefully it can get better. But yeah, for me, I would be going out and getting a striker personally.
Yeah, I think everybody.
But I think everyone's
here. Yeah, I think everybody agrees. Like we need a striker. Yeah, Chris and Andrew both nodding. I think it's obvious we need a striker. It's interesting though, because a lot of people on Twitter are saying, "Oh, it's not the striker that's the issue; it's the creativity." But I think a striker would obviously create more space with his runs. A striker that isn't Lyle Foster, who wants to drop a little bit deeper. And again, that's being a bit harsh on Lyle. I do agree with you though, Sam. I'm at the stage now where I don't feel bags of confidence of Lyle anymore.
Yeah.
We always have to say, "Oh, I know he's had his issues and stuff," but I'm at the stage now where I think, Lyle might not be the guy.
Yeah, I do get people shouts off for the wingers though, because like Koleosho, like we've all said, and I haven't had a chance to listen in, lads, so I do apologise. I've been really busy, but I'm guessing you guys have all been talking about similar things, and we all think relatively similar. Like with Koleosho, he is a brilliant player, and when he's on his game, he is fantastic. But there are occasions where he doesn't make the right decision. He's still a young lad. He can get into the box, but sometimes he chips across when it should be along the floor. Sometimes he pings it at a defender when he could have gone, he could have taken an extra touch. There is an element of, there is creativity. There is a lack of creativity, sorry. But then on the flip side, in that whole game, Jayden Anthony physically sold that defender a 6 and literally that goal, just because Fleming headed it in, that's all Jayden Anthony's goal, and he's doing that relatively consistently as well. I feel like we're a good Sarmiento performance away from that right hand side looking slightly different. I think Koleosho is getting to the point now where there are question marks. Not that I don't think he's a good player, not that I don't think he is. If he's on his game, 100% he's the first name on the team sheet, but you could very easily make a case for if Sarmiento has a good game, Jayden Anthony's not done enough to get dropped, in my opinion. So, and then also you add in players like Nathan Redmond and Aaron Ramsey and and Trezor, all these other players. I mean, I know some of them seem missing, but if those players come back and can put in a performance, then no one's safe on those wings, really, are they? So, yeah, I think that's it for me.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I do like Luke, and I think dropping him maybe would be a bit harsh, but I kind of understand it in a way because I like how brave he is, and we've kind of already said it. I do like how brave he is. I like how he wants to get on the ball and run at defenders, but I would like to see something different. But is Millwall away and West Brom away the right time, as Sam said earlier, to be tinkering? Probably not. There's been some... I don't want to put this sort of stuff on Twitter, so this is why I never ask this sort of stuff on Twitter, because it can appear sensationalist if you ask the question, but I am categorically going to say no, and if you want Parker out, in my opinion, it's ridiculously early to be doing stuff like that. But I want to ask everybody in the chat, just put a yes or no. Are you still backing Parker or not? So yes for still backing him, no for not. They make it clear. So if you want him sacked, obviously you put no. Andrew, you still backing Parker?
No, I want him gone. We should be 50 points clear by now, and we should have run away with this league already. Yeah, it's ridiculous not to be backing him. We said at the end of last season, I said, I will back Company for 10 games, and if we're not in the top 6, then I want him gone. Company's obviously fucked off to Bayern. Excuse my French, but I still hate him for that. He's obviously gone to Bayern. Parker's come in. He's had his team dismantled around him. He's lost Bellamy, who we pretty much assumed was going to be his assistant. He's had the rug pulled under him. And then he's had to put a makeshift team together. And we have lost one game all season against the team that's top of the league. We're still, I think we've got more clean sheets this season than we had all last season. We're still getting used to it. He's playing players out of position, probably not all to his own fault, and was second in the league in October.
Yeah.
4 points better off than we were when we won the league, running away with it. Anyone who wants him gone, give your head a wobble. The defence is more shored up, so if we do go up and we play in the Premier League next year, I think I'm probably in the minority, but I'm a lot more confident than I would have been if we still had company. We're second in the league. We're doing a hell of a lot better than I expected. So, yeah, he's got my backing till Christmas at least.
Fair enough. It's good to see a lot of the comments in the chat are still back in Parker. Yeah, I did think maybe there would be one or two in the chat that didn't. But yeah, I agree with you, Andrew. If someone had said to me when Company left and we sold all them players before the Sunderland match, you'll be second going into November, would you take that? I'd be like 100% I'd take that. Yes, there's obviously, to caveat that, there's been some performances in there that haven't been great. There's been some results in there that haven't been great. But I would have 100% taken that because we're in a position where, and I know people don't like to hear it because everyone wants to be angry all the time, where it's actually a good position. We've got players coming back from injury. We've got, Redmond, Trezor may or may not play for us again. But you've still got Ramsey. You've still got Benson. You've still got all these players that are going to come back from injury and improve us. I genuinely believe in a good position, and you would hope that the board are looking at that and thinking we need a number 9. Let's go out and get there in a number 9, and then that will improve us. But even though I've just kind of criticised Lyle, I still want to see Lyle in the 9 and Fleming in the 10 because we haven't seen that enough yet, and I do think that might help Lyle. But for me, that will be his 100% last chance. I'm getting pretty fed up with him, if I'm going to be honest with you. Chris, I'm sure I know your answer, but are you still back in Parker?
Yeah, I don't really see how you could want him out. After the just a caveat, the start he's had, and excuse my French, he's been dealt a shit hand by the board. The board have literally they've sold him a dream, said yeah, you'll come in, you'll have Wilson Odobert, you'll have Sander Berge, Zeki, I'm doing his training, we've got Tressor's going to stay, or whoever, all these players we've got Benson, we had Zarori, and they've just gone pulled the rug from under him. There you go, Scott, you're on your ear. They've reinvested minimal, and I mean minimal in him. If you look at the investment they gave Company compared to what they give Parker, he's had nothing. We have 4 million on Worrell, 4 million on Hannibal, who's done nothing. Worrell's injured as well. And look what he's left with. It's not really that much. We've got probably 2 or 3 players who are actually saleable. The rest are all, but for me, we've got a fairly average championship squad. I know Sam said we've got a lot of good players, and we've got some, but I think a lot of our squad is fairly average in the championship. So to be second so far, I think he's done well. Especially with all the shite he's had to deal with, because what he had to deal with in the summer was a joke. All them players, he's been sold a dream, rug pulled from under him, and we're still in the top 2. I've been on here probably countless times and done fan reactions where I weren't happy last season. I want to be top of the league. I want to be 5 points clear a second, and if we're 5, I wouldn't be happy with that. I want to be 8. Everyone wants to be top of the league and everyone wants to be better, but sometimes you've just got to accept that you're in the position you're in. We've lost all these players. We've not replaced them with anywhere near the same caliber. We've had to clean up the mess that Company left behind. So sometimes you've just got to say he's doing all right, and that's the position we're in. I think with Company, some of our fans have become disillusioned with where we're at. And because we won the league with 100 points, they're expecting we're going to win the league with 100 points. Before we won the league with 100, I think the last team to do it was Leicester in 2014. It's that's how often it doesn't happen. It's a once every 10-year thing. It doesn't happen very often. So he can only do what he can do with what he's got. I think we've just become disillusioned. We got spoiled under Company with the football we have, and it was never going to be that good this season. We know Parker's not as good a manager as Company, because if he was, he wouldn't be managing us. So, just accept the position we're in. We're second. We're firmly in that race for the top 2. We will get better as the season goes on. And I think, Sam touched on it earlier, the main thing for me is just keep in touch till January. If someone said to me now, you'll be second in January and 5 points off top, say, yeah, thank you very much. Let's sell Tressor, 15 million, whatever we get. None of this loan and cash in 6 months, nonsense. Money now, just spend it all on a 9. I'm not involved. Just get a striker in. If we're in this position now in January, if this like for like position now in January and we get a number 9, we'll win the league. I'm that confident.
Well, Kieran Phillips says, I'm saying it now. Come May, we will be champions. Dale Husband says, clean sheets keep you up there. Once we score more, brackets if, we'll be fine. Chris Hyam says, thoughts on atmosphere at the home games? Shite, mate. I think that's been discussed quite a lot, to be fair. The atmosphere ain't great. Sam, are you still back in Parker, mate?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, let's be fair. Like we're second in the division. We are not playing the greatest football in the entire world, but Chris pretty much summed it up perfectly. We have been treated over an 18-month period under company of what it is like to be a powerhouse in a division. That season where we won the championship must be like how Man City feel every single season. We went out, we signed good players that you were like, oh, who's he? Just dropped straight in, unbelievable. Zaruri, Benson, all these fantastic players came in. The style of football was brilliant. We got 100 points. Like, we absolutely dominated that division. And when we've come down, people have thought, oh, there's this absolutely amazing super team that's, okay, they weren't great in the Premier League, but they'll be able to showcase the talents in the Championship. I saw a comment earlier about the board. Like, the board didn't have to sell all those players. We've already agreed that. Like, we didn't have to sell everybody, but we did. And I think for the fact that we did sell everybody, we did replace relatively well. I think it has diminished the quality, but you always expect that when you drop down to the Championship anyway. You never expect to be equally as good, if not better, when you come down from the Premier League, because that would just be ludicrous. And what would be the point? Like, obviously, everybody's going to try and poach your best players. We lost Sander Berge, we lost Zaruri, who we thought could be a squad player. We've lost other players. And we are sat here with a squad, like Chris says, that is not going to get 100 points, but it's still a good enough squad to be in the top 6, and it's still a good enough squad to be challenging up there in the league this season. Like I said earlier, there is no outright amazing team in the Championship this season. This isn't the season where you had Southampton, Leeds and Leicester. This is a season where you've got 5 or 6 teams that could be challenging at the top of the table, and it's going to change all the time. Sheffield United were a couple of weeks ago one of the best teams in the country that anybody's ever seen, and they were amazing. And now look at them, like they don't look half as good as what people think, because they've had a couple of dodgy results. We've had a couple of dodgy results. Leeds have had a couple of dodgy results. There is no outright unbelievable team in this league, and to pin all of our issues on Scott Parker as a manager, it's the natural order of things, how things work in football. Things aren't going right. Who do you go to? The manager. There's so many other factors in this season, with all the players that we've lost and all the players that we've brought in, and the style of play, and a new manager, and the board and the atmosphere around the turf not being great, and the expectation being different to when company came in. I think sometimes you've just got to have a little bit of a sit back, really just take a step out of football and just go, do you know what? It's really genuinely not actually that bad. Like, in the moment in a game, you come off of the QPR game and you are frustrated. It's a natural reaction to be annoyed at drawing 0-0 with bottom at league. It is.
Yeah.
But when you then come out of it and you look at it and you say, well, at the same time as us not actually doing anything that bad, we've conceded 1 goal in the last 5 games. Like, yes, we're not scoring goals, but we're not dramatically dropping points in comparison to teams around us. We're second in the division with a manager who's still learning a new team and still trying to embed his style of play. I think we just need to get through to January. Like Chris says, if we're second in January, you're turning around and you're saying, what on earth is this? Because this is fantastic. And then you can turn around and, like Chris says, for me, we are we're a Morgan Whittaker and a number 9 away from being easily the best team in the division. Like, we all know that Fleming was the big signing of the summer transfer window, but everybody knows that we went for Whittaker first 3 times because he was the number 1 target. So Morgan Whittaker is, look at how he plays for Plymouth, who are a struggling side in the division. Look at what he could add to our team. Like, he would be a perfect signing. Bringing in a number 9 would be brilliant. It's all if buts and maybes, but we just need to give company. Oh God. We just need to give Parker. That's not going to go down well, that is it? We just need to give Parker the same time that we did give company, because for me, we gave company all this time, and look what he did to us in the end. He left us in a much worse position. Snapped his hand off at the first opportunity he got, and he's gone and lost 4-0 to Barcelona, and look where they are in the Champions League. So for me, back Parker, and if we give Parker the same type of love that we gave company, it will all be reciprocated in time. So you just need to wait.
Yeah, fair enough. Some very well balanced points there from the lads. Somebody was saying earlier on the show, not earlier on this show, but on earlier on YouTube, we don't provide any balance. We are all holier than thou and think that we're better than everybody else. But I believe that there were some good points well made. There's one thing that we do need to do before we wrap up, lads, because we are, well past the hour mark now. Man of the match shouts. I'll go first on this one. I very rarely let myself go first, but everybody get your comments in for your man of the match. Please put your comments in. I'm going to go, and I don't know if this is going to be a bit left field, with CJ. I thought CJ played well yesterday. It wasn't just his defensive duties, but his passing was incredible as well. I feel like we've missed somebody that can pass, a really long diagonal crossfield pass to the wingers. Unfortunately, the wingers never did anything with it. But I do feel like we've missed somebody that can do that. And I thought CJ was good defensively yesterday, and he was also good with his passing yesterday. Andrew, your man of the match, please, mate.
I'm pissed off, mate, because I was going to go left field and go CJ Egan-Riley. I thought I'd be in minority. Yeah, I thought pretty much everything you said there. I thought it was outstanding. I think he's got a lot of stick recently for no reason, but I think yesterday we saw the player that we thought we'd signed 2 years ago. And yeah, like I said last time, I'm delighted to actually see him get some game time, because I'm pretty sure he was one of company's first signings. But yeah, I'm really happy. And yeah, it has to be Egan-Riley.
Yeah, fair enough. Chris, your man of the match, please, mate.
Egan-Riley.
Oh my
I tweeted at half time in the game like how good he was in the first half. Like he won everything in the air, and like his passing's phenomenal. Like you can tell he's come through like when they come through the academy pathway. Like say you watched him pass a ball, or you watched Andre Gray pass a ball, who's come through like Nuneaton Town or wherever he's come from. Like there's a big difference in how they like play and how they pass. Like his passing in the first half, like he'll miss men out and go to Koleosha in one pass, and you're like, well, that helps. He's got more time, space on the ball. Yeah, Egan-Riley. Like I've said on here before, like I know someone who was looking for like they were a Champions League club at the time, like a scout, and they wanted to sign Egan-Riley, and he come to Burnley. So that was a real coup. So I'm glad he's playing now. He's still out of position though. Like people forget that he's not a centre back. People give me stick in the comments now. Like he is. He's not.
He's a fullback.
He's like, well, he's actually a number 6. Like that's where like people.
This
team wanted to sign him as number 6.
No, I don't believe it.
It's like people be giving me stick. Like, he's a centre back. He's a centre back.
Did he not play as the 6 in the cup? Did he not play as a 6 in the cup?
Whenever
2 years ago?
Yeah, whenever company played him, he played him as a 6. Yeah. That was his position. But
keep him there.
He's doing well. He's doing well in defence.
Football manager. We'll see.
We need that. Like when Worrell got injured, like we needed someone to play alongside Esteve and be there every week. We need that settled pairing, and we found it now. Like,
yeah,
just leave him there. Is it his like best position? Probably not, but just leave him. Like leave him there now. Like that's his shirt to lose. Like even when Worrell comes back, I won't move him.
I agree. I do feel like he's been good. I'm surprised that 3 of us have gone for CJ. I thought the majority of people were going for Roberts. Just quickly before I get Sam's man of the match, Claret Al says CJ. Claret Blue says Loren. Egan-Riley says Lee Dane. Flyover Fred says Roberts. David Gill says Egan-Riley. Jimmy Hawk says Roberts. Steve says Suey. Roberts says Dale. Between CJ and Roberts for me, says David. CJ was brilliant, says David Ashley. Steve says Henner's YT. Sean Rubinio says CJ Egan-Riley. Ginger Alice says Egan-Riley. Scott O'Sullivan says Egan-Riley. John Faulkner says CJ is growing on me game on game. Roberts or CJ both had good games, says Claret 22. Egan Riley says Philip. Claret Owl says in a very close order, CJ, Steve, Roberts, and Loren. Twin City says Roberts. That's pretty much it. But yeah, a lot of votes for Roberts, a lot of votes for CJ. CJ probably just edging it there in the chat. Sam, who are you going for, please, mate?
I'm going to go for Josh Laurent. I genuinely just love the bloke. I just think he's one of those players that came in with zero expectation. And because of that, all he can do is exceed it. Like, every single time he plays, he just shares that midfield up. He doesn't do anything flashy because he doesn't need to, because it's not in his game. That's why we spent £500,000 on him. He is a player who's going to win you the ball, hold it up because no one's winning the ball off him, and play it to Cullen or Brownhill, who can play with the ball, or get it out wide, and to the wingers who are going to play with the ball. Every time he's on the pitch, we look 10 times better. And in midfield, I honestly just love it. Every time he goes in for a tackle, I'm like, get in. I love it. Yeah. And he's absolutely brilliant. And I think for me, he's been arguably the signing of the season so far. I think
when you factor price into it, 100%.
Yeah, I think he's been 100%. Absolutely incredible. It's Josh Laurent for me.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Even though he can sometimes, I won't say he's not great on the ball, but I think the reason why we were so much better at getting the ball to the final third yesterday was because of Josh Laurent. He drags us 30, 40 yards up the pitch, and I really think that was the reason why we were so much better. Makes it sound like we were amazing, but you know what I mean? Why we were better yesterday, getting it to the final third. But as we've said for the last hour, we weren't good enough in the final third, and that's why we didn't win the game. Right, we'll wrap it up there because I, as usual on Sunday, start work in 15 minutes. So as usual, if you have joined the show late, remember that as soon as I press end stream on this, it does stay on YouTube and Facebook for you to watch back on demand whenever you wish, whether you want to watch it now as soon as it's finished, whether you want to watch it in the morning or whatever, that's entirely up to you, but you can do so on YouTube and Facebook. Or if you want to listen to it on your drive to work tomorrow, school, college, whatever, then you can do so because the podcast will be out later today. But thank you, Andrew, for coming on the show. Thank you, Chris, as well, for coming on the show. And thank you, Sam. It's good to have Sam and Chris back. Obviously, Sam's been very busy and Chris has had a life-changing event. Congratulations, Chris. We've struggled to get some of the lads on. Andrew's here every week, but it's always good to have Andrew as well, mate. I do always appreciate it. But thank you, lads, for coming. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Fair enough. And we will see you. Definitely be a full-time show after Millwall, but it might have to be on Sunday evening, straight after the game that night, because I can't do it on Monday or Tuesday. But thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And we will see you next time.